Hello, everybody, and welcome to You'll Like 'em, the podcast where we talk about music, movies, and lots of other stuff, and we give out recommendations on things that we think you guys should check out. This week, we're going to be doing a mini-sode instead of a full-length episode. I know it's been so long, and, you know, things have been a bit hectic with our schedules, Josh and I's schedules, but I promise you that hopefully within the next couple of weeks, we're going to get some more, you know, of the normal variety stuff out. Yaskowicz and I are trying to sync up our schedules, but right now it's just me. I'm just going to do a short episode where I give out a couple of recommendations, and then I'm going to tease something that I'm planning on doing in the future, and then we'll be done for this week. But let's just dive right ahead into the recommendations for this week. I have two that I want to give you this week. The first one is not music or movie related. It is actually a comedian. My friend Liam, who was on the not last episode, but the episode before that with my brother and I, and he showed me a comedian named Daniel Sloss, S-L-O-S-S. Daniel Sloss is a British comedian. He's born in England and grew up in Scotland. And he's very funny and makes some really nice points in his stand-up. Like he, in his first stand-up, Dark, he talks about death and you know, grieving and stuff like that. And in his second one, he talks about finding happiness and you know, trying to figure out what direction to go with in your life. And they're really funny, you know, because they're stand-up shows, but they're also surprisingly like moving at times. You hear the things he's saying and you're like, my God, this makes sense. He makes a jigsaw analogy for life in the second show. Both of them are available on Netflix, by the way. Daniel Sloss live shows, and both of the shows he's done are on there under that anthology, I guess. But I just wanted to let you guys know it's the comedy is very funny, and the slower and more poignant parts are also very effective too. And I think you all should go out and watch it, especially because he is a fellow Scotsman, and I will support almost any Scottish artist. So everybody check out Daniel Sloss on Netflix, YouTube, wherever you can. Follow him on Twitter, Daniel_Sloss, and check him out. And the second recommendation I have this week is again a music related one, and it is one of my favorite bands, a band called Marillion. Marillion were a British band formed in Aylesbury, England, in 1980. I think one. I'm not 100% sure. I need to double check, or maybe like 79, maybe even earlier than that. But they were known for two lineups that they had. Which was the Fish-led lineup, which consisted of Stephen Rothery on guitar, Mark Kelly on keyboards, Peter Travis on bass guitar, Ian Mosley on drums, and Derek William Dick, also known by his stage name Fish, on vocals. And this lineup went from 84 to 88, I believe. And the first album was a different lineup, different drummer, Mick Pointer on drums, but there's two distinct eras of Marillion, excuse me. There's the Fish era, which, like I said, goes from their first album in 1983 to their last album in 88, excuse me. And then there's the Hogarth era, which is the second lead singer they got, called Steve Hogarth, and that goes from 89 on to present day. And I really like both eras of Marillion. It's a divisive subject with a lot of fans of the band. Same as how, you know, is it Van Halen or Van Hagar? Which one do you like better, David Lee Roth or Sammy Hagar? You know, it's stuff like that. But I like both eras of Marillion because I really like the sounds that they come up with. The musicians are all very talented and very... subtle's not the word, but they're not overly flashy. They don't show off a whole lot, and they make really nice, atmospheric, and pretty sounding music. And Steve Rothery plays a nice guitar. Ian Mosley is one of the most underrated drummers of all time. Pete Travis is a great bassist. Mark Kelly's a great keyboardist. Steve Hogarth's an amazing singer. And Fish is I didn't mention him on my list of favorite singers, but in more recent months and years, he has had a huge impact on me as not only a lyricist and writer, but also as a singer. He was one of the people that I listened to their singing and thought, well, they're not an amazing singer, so I could probably sing like this, and made me want to pursue a career in music. But if you want some albums to check out by them, I would say listen to every single one of their albums because I love them. But some standout albums, we'll go chronologically. Script for a Jester's Tears, their first album from '83. Now, that's always a good one to check out. It's a little self-indulgent at times and feels very much like the band just wanted to be Genesis in the 80s. Like Peter Gabriel led Genesis in the 80s, I should say. And then, there's some nice tracks on there, some good tracks that they continued to play, but they were a little, fanciful and like, we're singing about jesters and other weird stuff. And then the next album, Fugazi, also a really good album, one of my favorites by the band, but I would recommend you get into that one a little later down the line. Misplaced Childhood was their biggest selling album at the time, and I'm fairly certain it's still their best selling album in the United Kingdom. And it has their hit songs, Lavender and Kaylee. So that would be a good one to start with. That goes in a more pop direction, but there's still like the influences of prog in there. There's a couple of like 7 and 9 minute tracks. And then it's Clutching at Straws, which again, very poppy, a little more, 80s rock and pop than prog. But there's still that little taste of prog in there, the poetic lyrics and the complex time signatures and musicianship, stuff like that. Like that's it's still prog, but it's just a little lighter. And then the next album's Season's End, also an excellent album. First album they did with Steve Hogarth. So I would say Script for Jester's Tear, Misplaced Childhood, Season's End, the three you want to go with chronologically, because you kind of get an idea of what the directions the band were going in, without having to listen to every single album. And then after Season's End, which is also very good, there's Holidays in Eden, which I'm a fan of. And then you can also check out their album Afraid of Sunlight, which came out in 1995, which is a little more like almost ambient at times. There's a lot of like lengthier tracks that use a lot of like very like almost depressing sounding compositions, and it is a very good album. Well, a lot of good performances by all the members of the band. Pete Travis is at the top of his fucking game at bass at this point for some reason. Everything else he was doing really well, and then on Afraid of Sunlight he just goes and he's like playing all this fretless stuff, and I'm like, okay, it was quite a left turn. Next up, This Strange Engine, another really good album. The tracks on the album, it's sort of like 2112. The other tracks on the album, you would know if you've listened to it, you might sing along to, but the one that everybody goes for is the title track, This Strange Engine, which I've seen the band play live in DC, and it was sublime. Anyway, then they get into the more modern stuff. Brave is also another one to check out. That one came out in 94. I forgot to mention that one. Also a very good album. Concept album about a girl who throws herself off a bridge and can't remember why she did it or what happened to get her there. Then we get into the 90s and the 2000s, and the quality dips at points with their albums. But the really good albums that they have out of this from the 2000s are Marbles, a double album which has one of the best songs they ever wrote, which is called Neverland on it. Another great song to watch live. And then their most recent album, Fuck Everyone and Run, with Fear. Another sort of kind of concept album just about the condition that the world is in nowadays, and the way we view other people, that kind of us and them mentality that we have. And, It's a very good album, a lot of really good tracks on it, and again, when I saw the band live, they performed like pretty much the entire album and its every track in its entirety. So it was another great experience to see, but also just it's a very, there is anger in there, but it's more of a sad album. Even the song that has the lyrics in it, "Fuck everyone and run," are delivered in a way that Hogarth does it very softly with this very like airy falsetto, so it seems less aggressive and bitter and more mournful. The fact that we just kind of like, don't give a shit about anybody but myself. Now, the reason I wanted to talk about Marillion as well, other than the fact that they are one of my favorite bands, is that a while back, as you know, I did a Pink Floyd retrospective where I went through all the albums of Pink Floyd, ranked them from least favorite to absolute favorite of all time, and I wanted to do something like that with Marillion. And Marillion have a couple more albums than Pink Floyd's, not by many, but I didn't want it to be like 3 parts and an hour apart. So I just wanted to let everybody know at some point I am going to be doing a series on Marillion, but I want to write it out and kind of plan it out and work on being eloquent and thoughtfully coming up with my opinions and finding a way to articulate them and not me go for like 3 hours. So at some point I will keep everybody posted on that on Twitter and Facebook and other social media platforms. And what other social media platforms do we use? None. I don't know why I said others. Anyway. But I wanted to let everybody know about that now, and as while I was talking about Marillion, because I kind of have a homework for you guys. So check out, if you want, those albums that I recommended by Marillion, which were Script for a Jester's Tear, Misplaced Childhood, Season's End, Holidays in Eden, Brave, Afraid of Sunlight, The Strange Engine, Marbles, and Fuck Everyone and Run. But if you want to, when it gets closer to the time when I do the Marillion retrospective, but I would recommend that if you want to, if you like the music of Marillion, then you check out the rest of their albums, so that when it comes time for me to do my my sort of like essay on the band and why I think they kind of get shafted a lot, and the treatment of the bands is a little unfair by the British journalists, music journalists, and the press and people like that. And if you guys go and listen to their discography, and it doesn't have to be like all in a oneer. You can take a couple weeks to do it. They've got a decent discography, and just go through all the studio albums and listen to them, so that when I say, hey guys, I'm doing the retrospective soon on Marillion, that you guys can come into it, and you might even be able to send me messages and say, hey, I'm interested, you said this about Marillion, I agree or I disagree, I think this, and I'd love to hear that from you guys, because for one, there's not enough Marillion fans in the world, really. And I love this band a lot. They're very important to me, as far as like my my growing up has been, and like my musical endeavors, been influenced by Marillion and Fish and the various members and songs and albums by the band. And I'd like to let more people know about them and realize that they are a good band. They are very legitimate and pioneering in some cases band. And so if you guys want to go and listen to the albums I recommended, and if you like Marillion, go ahead and listen to the rest of their discography. And then when I do my retrospective, a lot of you guys would be on the same page as me and know the band's music and be able to form your own opinions about the band. So that's all we're going to do for this week. Again, a very short episode. I'm actually getting ready to run back to college. I'm at my house in Westminster. I'm heading back to Towson, but this is all in Maryland, by the way. So I'm just doing this real quick, and then I'm going to try and edit it and get it up as soon as possible. hopefully before Monday. If not, and it's past Monday, you can give me all the grief you like for that statement. But thanks everybody for listening. If you like what you hear, you can follow us on iTunes at You'll Like 'Em with Conor and Josh. Now I actually changed the way we were advertising. Instead of being Conor and Josh's You'll Like 'Em podcast, it's now You'll Like 'Em with Conor and Josh. It's less of a mouthful, I feel. I think it flows a little better. So check us out on iTunes, You'll Like 'Em with Conor and Josh, or type in Conor and Josh's You'll Like 'Em podcast. iTunes has been giving me a hell of a time with the changing name thing. We'll be on SoundCloud for a little more, as again, You'll Like 'Em with Conor and Josh. You can find us on Libsyn under the same name. On Twitter, we are at You'll Like 'Em pod. And Facebook, we are, I believe, Conor and Josh's You'll Like 'Em podcast. I will change that again, but don't worry. We also have our YouTube page, which is just called You'll Like 'Em. And we have every episode up until this episode up on the YouTube channel. And I'm planning on putting the Pink Floyd retrospectives up there too. I just want to work on the videos a little more and make them a little more interesting in presentation. Have some music in there maybe, and feature the album artwork and some images and stuff of the band. But as of right now, we're all up to date as far as the actual episodes of the show go, and even the mini episodes. So check us out on any of those places. Follow us on social media, subscribe to us, like our page, and share us on social media with your friends, stuff like that, because we've tried advertising on Facebook and other sites like that, and it just doesn't seem to draw in as much of a crowd. So the best way for us to get a bigger fan base and more people listening is if you guys help us out and spread the word and tell your friends about the show and show it to everybody. And we'd appreciate that, and that would you guys mean a lot to us, and any way you can help us is amazing for us, and we would appreciate that more than we can even possibly say. So thanks everybody for listening. This is Conor here. I'm saying cheerio, and we'll see you guys next week. All right, bye-bye.